What was it like being there last night, being on that field and watching that performance from your alma mater?
Gee, I was, doing this job this year, watching LSU kind of come into their own and become the team that we saw ultimately they became last night. I was literally worried about being professional. Like, that's the thing that I was thinking. I was like, there is no way in hell I can be on this sideline trying to give advice to this D-line while they trying to play against Clemson. And then thinking, like, I walked out after halftime and Ryan is orchestrating the band while they play. Like, I mean, just all. That said Louisiana State Gooniversity. You know, I like to use goon all the time. This was look at it was amazing, man. Listen, I was having a talk with one of my former teammates, Dwayne Bowe, and I told him, I said, man, look, you have to grab these type of moments when you in them and really pay attention to what's happening. And you got to understand, man, we've been watching Alabama do this. Yep. So we celebrated like it was the last game that's going to ever be played in college football, man.
But you know what? It's the last game. It's the one that counts. He was worried about being professional. I was not. I don't do college football. So where he was like, hey, I can't do all these things. Yeah. The reason I don't have a voice is because professionalism was the last thing I was thinking about. I was the anti-Greenie. That wasn't the life I was trying to live.
Fair enough. Okay, so now let's get to the action here, and let's get to those of you who covered it. So, Laura, let's talk about Joe Burrow, because this is one of the truly remarkable stories in the history of college football. He just concluded the greatest season any college quarterback ever had. It's not an opinion. It's just an obvious statement of fact when you look at the numbers. And I don't know that everyone really fully appreciates how unlikely it is when you consider the path that he traveled.
It's incredible. Joe Burrow, just a kid from Athens, Ohio. He's somebody that had lost the job at Ohio State. They weren't going to have him be their quarterback. He said, I'm going to go and get an opportunity somewhere else. He goes to LSU. Was not great last year. Didn't have an offense that he really succeeded in. This year, he came back and said, I'm going to be great. He always believed that he could be what he ended up being. Yeah, he won the Heisman. He didn't care as much about that. He wanted this championship ring, and what we saw last night was a culmination of all of that. And, Dan, a culmination of the transfer portal and how that is the new age of college football, where some teams are a quarterback away, they get their guy in there, and they can make it happen.
The most fascinating thing is Joe Burrow, Babe Ruth, this national championship. He called his shot, right? He pointed it out, said, I'm going to go win the national title, and then did it. And it reminds me really of the William Shakespeare quote when it says, do not be afraid of greatness, because some are born into it, some have it thrust upon, some are born into it, some achieve it, and then some have it thrust upon them.
Go in your bag, Dad. Keep talking.
And this was Joe Burrow displaying greatness at the quarterback position, at the leader position. And when you call your shot and you say you're going to go do it, and then you go do it in your home city, essentially of your university, dude, that is filth. And I don't know, like Joe Burrow to me he's Aaron Rodgers and Steve Young in one body, where these guys just have such awareness of space and understanding of where color is and how it all kind of moves together and where weaknesses and strengths are. It's the greatest performance that I've ever seen for a season of a quarterback, and I've seen a lot of really good quarterback performances individually. That one is up there at the top of that.
Well, let's put some numbers to this, all right? In the history of the college football playoff, which obviously is not a long history, the most touchdowns any quarterback had ever accounted for in a season was Deshaun Watson with 7. Joe Burrow had 14 touchdowns accounted for. He doubled the previous record in these 2 games. So how would you describe, RC, what he meant to this team and to this program this year?
Well, I think what he meant, he's the most important recruit we've ever gotten. And it was, what's crazy is we didn't know that. Obviously, Derek Stingley Jr. was one of the huge recruits. Leonard Fournette was a huge recruit. But they didn't change Louisiana State University football the way that Joe Burrow did. This team has been a quarterback away for a decade. When you look at the sidelines last night and you can see all the different players that have played for LSU, all the years logged in the NFL, all of the Pro Bowls, all of the All-Pros, there still wasn't a season like this for this team, and it's because they didn't have a quarterback like Joe Burrow. When he stepped on campus, he knew he wanted to be the man. He believed he had it, and he continued to grow into that. And the more he believed in himself, the more the team believed in him. And now a state does, because we've showed the nation that this is where football should be.
And, we use the cliche all the time that we try to educate young people. The grass ain't always greener on the other side. I'll be damned, it was greener on this side when he left and came to Louisiana, because he came to a school with a coach that believed. Listen, Ed O was more in on Joe Burrow than anybody in the country, even last year, talking about we got a guy. Think about this. Joe Burrow showed up late to camp and ended up being the starter for every game for LSU 2 years ago when he threw 16 touchdowns. Edo got rid of his offensive coordinator that he came in late with, brought a new guy in, and then they produced this.
Coach O is a Louisiana guy. So when you have people like that, putting my ego aside so LSU is better, putting my ego aside so this state gets a championship, that's not hard. And that's what playing and coaching and being a part of that university is.
For people who follow their football more on Sundays than on Saturdays, he will be the number one pick in the draft. Give us a sense of him as a prospect. And we know he's going to be number one. Give us a sense of him at the next level. What are you seeing?
He can't miss. He's a can't miss guy right now. When it comes to understanding systems, understanding protection, understanding matchups, where the weaknesses of a defense, the different kinds of throws, I'm big on that. And here's the reality. Watching the game on the field level last night, this cat's a stone cold killer.
Yes.
He's a stone cold killer. So take all the talent, that's great.